Hello and good morning. I'm Julian Wright-Williams. I'm the librarian for the Velocette Owners Club. And today I'm in Derbyshire at Fellside. As many of you will know, Fellside is the home of Ivan Rhodes, often referred to as Mr. Velocette. Ivan's behind me in the workshop, and today we're just going to talk about Velocettes, about vintage motorcycle racing, and also about Ivan's passion of a lifetime. Good morning, Ivan.
Good morning, Julian.
Lovely to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
That's a lovely day, too.
It is a lovely day. So straight into this wonderful workshop, and I can see we have a number of Velocettes here. But before we go any further, Ivan, please just tell me about this Velocette on the bench.
This particular one?
Yes.
Yes, well, I suppose it's it started life as a Mark II KSS of 19 whatever, pre-war one with that lug there.
Yes.
It was Graham's first race bike as a young man.
Now, you better just, for everybody,
Graham being eldest son.
Eldest son, yes.
That was his first race bike. He had a KTT engine and he learned to ride on that. He went down the road a time or two, but that's the way it was.
When you say you went down the road, you mean he fell off?
He fell off the other occasion. Yes. You know, these people try a bit, then find the edge. But eventually it became surplus because eventually he built himself a Mark 8. I always made sure he got what he wanted,
right,
and help him with it to do it. So of course he got the Mark 8, which was really, that frame was his first Mark 8 frame,
yes,
which came out of the factory to be hanging on the wall with some error, I think, on the bottom end there. But anyway.
So it was a reject.
I think it was a reject. It worked. It served its purpose for quite a long time.
But this encouraging your son to take up the dangerous sport of motorcycle racing?
Well, you know, when you think about it, he was keen right from the start. I've got photographs here where he'd come with me from the age of 4. I've got an old KTT in there, which I first rode way back in 1946. Titch Allen founded the Vintage Club in 1946. At that time, at 14 years of age, I rode that old Velo down Coal Lane.
Well, we'll come back to how you started. So there you were, encouraging your eldest son to go motorcycle racing.
Well, you know, I couldn't keep him off. He wanted to come out and go. There was a time, which I think when he was still at school,
yes,
he was underage and highly illegal. When he got a ride on some foreign whiz bang at a race meeting somewhere. I never did find out where it was, but it was recorded somewhere. Yeah, this is going back a long way.
Okay, so back to this motorcycle then. For the people who perhaps don't know so much about the racing Velocette, what makes this special?
Well, eventually we're aware that Stanley Woods was involved in development as far as Velo's handling was concerned.
Now, Stanley Woods was the greatest of the riders pre-war, wasn't he?
And of course we knew him, we've met up with him, we've had long discussions with him, and he was responsible for a lot of development work and so forth, guidance. This is part of it. We shortened the frame so it would handle well. This one was done. And eventually it still had the KTT engine, which Sam was to take over, grandson Sam now, was to take over. But more recently, we got involved with the pre-war twin cam project, which they made at least three bikes before the war for 36, which all went to Australia in 39. But amongst the stock of spares that came from the factory, which we were able to obtain many years ago now, was a lot of this brand new stock, you know, was from those things, cams and various other things.
But am I right in saying these KTT Velocette were the first over-the-counter racing machines?
Well, we think so.
Yeah.
But AJs were pretty close, I must say, because
Okay.
they made a racer. But nevertheless...
So the ordinary man in the street could buy one of these bikes that was really designed for racing on the track, not for riding on the road.
Yes, well, you could have them on the road or you could race them. But the first KTT came, they won the... As you know, they won the 26 TT, and even then, at 26, it said, I've got a picture that said KTT.
Yeah.
Model K with a TT winner, and it won in 26, 26, sorry.
Yes.
You see, so
Okay.
this is all where it started, came from.
Very good.
So, of course, they made KTTs officially from 1929, after they'd won with the 28 cars.
Okay. And this bike of Graham's, this engine is from exactly what period?
No, that is really a rebuild. This is Bob was involved with this because he did all the drawings.
We'll come to who Bob is.
Yeah.
Bob's hiding in the background. Bob's helping Ivan and has helped Ivan for many years. Am I right?
Bob Higgs is very much involved with the Velocette.
Come on, Bob. Come and say hello.
And it's probably better known for the Vulcan, you know, the Vulcan sidecar outfit.
I do know what the Vulcan
which
is.
has done 100,000 miles plus.
Yes.
And still going strong.
Now, just for the camera, I'm going to say there's a gentleman which many current motorcycle enthusiasts know of called Alan Milliard. And Alan is famous for taking engines and adding more cylinders to them. But this man was doing it long before Alan Milliard was doing it. Am I right? And you created the Vulcan V-twin Velocette, which Velocette never made a V-twin, did they?
That's correct.
Yeah, but you made that bike in...
it was 83.
1983, yeah. And you said it's done a...
And it's been approved by the factory, you see. They approved it.
Yeah. You told me that first ride was up and down Cole Lane, just out here.
That's right. Not
Again, that would have been illegal, was it?
Oh, I'm sure it was. Well, my pal was older than me, and he for some reason he used to go to Melton Mowbray.
Yeah.
And there were some people there who were collecting old bikes from all over the place that obviously been used by, you'd think, ex-RAF people who'd probably not returned from action.
Yes.
Stop around, and I remember John Kidson bought a Rudge, and he hadn't got a number. They gave him a number plate and said, off you go, and that's the way it was done. And my pal used to come back with all sorts of things.
And what year would this be?
1946. Yeah, 46.
Yeah. So you weren't so worried about the magistrates and the local policemen?
We never even thought much about it. He came with a matchless Silver Hawk on one occasion, which I thought was pretty abominable. I mean, so people go crackers about this narrow angle V4, but it was pretty awful.
Was it?
We rode that up and down. We had a Rudge of 1936 with 4 valves, 4 speeds, with just ordinary. Yeah. Did you just ride them until you broke them? Actually, of course, the new road here we call it the new road, but that's the A52 bypass now. Okay. And that had been dug out. Yeah. It was left, and we used to ride up and down there. So no tarmac? Nothing. No, it was just mud. Well, the big clinker. You know, they've got clinker for the farmers to use. We go up and down. Yeah. And I do remember on one occasion we got an old side valve AJ because he got access to all the AJs. It took us all afternoon to get it going, but, you know, that was the way we did it. And presumably these machines didn't have a lot of value to other people in those days. They weren't... They didn't have a lot of value. People didn't pay any money. No, you couldn't afford... We haven't got any money. So we did a paper round to earn a few bob. Yeah. That's about it. Well, we managed to get a TVO from the farmer. Yeah. And we got a bottle of lighter fuel to start them up. You see? Put it in. Sorry, TVO? Tractor vaporizing oil. Tractor vaporizing oil.
and you'd put that on the bike.
There'd be somebody in Otbrook could do that, and I used to ride down and pester them, and eventually they let me have a ride. So they got this old side valve AJS of 1924 with an open pipe which sounded glorious, and I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And that really started it on. But then we found that got scrambling at the Flourish at Dale Abbey, which is 2 or 3 miles away. Yeah. And we went up to that, and I think people were having to run up. You couldn't buy petrol. No. And they're buying.
This was because of rationing. Rationing was still on.
That's right. Yeah. To get there. Okay. They had to go.
I seem to remember you telling me about you helping your father.
Yes.
In wartime.
Yeah.
Because Derby was a target for the Luftwaffe. Yes, am I right?
Yes.
So you were out walking around the streets at night in.
Yes, my father was a special constable.
Right.
He got flat feet, so he couldn't go in the army.
Okay.
He was a special constable.
Yeah.
He was also a tinsmith, and he was quite a capable chap.
Right.
Doing things, and the post office and the post office and the army got together.
Yeah.
And decided they've got to set up a smoke screen to protect Rolls-Royce.
Right.
And I remember he used to have to he got an old BSA, a 1935 250 side valve BSA.
Yeah.
An awful thing, which had mag lighter ignition and lighting.
Yeah.
So you got a dim light and you're lucky to get a spark, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
But that was his transport, and I'd have to sit on the back sometimes have time off school, wasn't allowed to go to school because I got to do some helping down there.
Yeah.
You see.
And was it dangerous?
Well, it was dangerous, and to ride my bicycle around. They're testing these hot things. Which slipped on them, we'd be in trouble.
Okay, all right.
But that's really where it all started off. And of course, they did have this smoke screen which protected Rolls-Royce.
Okay.
And I remember being in Derby. I remember when Rolls-Royce was bombed.
Yeah.
There was I saw the aeroplane coming in. I was in town.
Yes.
And I think it bombed the steel store at Rolls-Royce. Somebody lost their life.
Because Rolls-Royce would have been making the engines for.
Yes, they were very busy making engines for
aircraft. Yeah, yeah.
In fact, we could always hear them on test.
Yeah.
And sometime during the war, around that, I'd be about 10 years old in those days. Sometime during the war, my twin sister and myself. Wandering around the village, we saw a Wellington flying around which made a whistling sound.
So one night you saw a Wellington bomber?
That was during the war.
Yes.
That was 1942, I reckon.
Okay. And it made a strange noise.
Made a whistling sound, and I couldn't understand this.
No.
Yeah, but then we saw this tail, and then later realised that it was Whittle's jet being tested by Rolls-Royce from Hucknall. You could... Hucknall, we're in the middle. Hucknall's down there,
yes.
Nottingham way, Derby that way. You could hear the engine on test at Rolls-Royce Derby regularly, overnight, and that sort of stuff.
Oh, very good, very good. Then a little later, your father sent you to get a job, didn't he, in the railway industry? Well, tell me about that day. Yeah.
School, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I worked with him for a while, but you can't always work with your father very well.
Yeah, I think I've experienced that myself, yeah.
And of course, I didn't know it at the time, but his family were railway people, and I didn't know it.
Okay.
I know he'd got a brother who was a guard, and that's about all I knew. But nevertheless, he said, well, you better go up the railway, see if you can get a job. So I'm halfway up Siddles Road, and I've already been to Wildman's, and I called in there. So
now, Wildman's, just for everybody, Wildman's was a very well-established motorcycle dealership.
But of course, they'd just restarted after the war.
Right.
Ken had been in the RAF and dealt with cylinder servicing at Ashbourne Aerodrome.
Yeah.
And Bernard was mixed up with tanks and that sort of stuff, so they were just setting up breaking bikes, really. And so I went in for a bottle of cylinder black, which I didn't need, and I said, I'm looking for a job. And come and start on, I think it was the 4th of February 1948, when I actually started at Wildman.
That was your interview over?
Dismantling N20 BSAs.
Ex-War Department ones?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Oh, wonderful. So did you serve a complete apprenticeship at Wildman's?
I suppose I spent enough time learning about whatever was going on.
Yes.
But they did they set their stall out to recondition things.
Yes.
Made a good job of it, really. So we were encouraged to do that sort of stuff. And of course, they started with the LEs eventually.
Yes.
But I didn't get involved with LEs at that time because I had to go and do my national service just when they were sorting LEs out.
Was it Catterick? Catterick Camp?
Catterick,
yes. RAF?
Not Catterick Camp.
No.
RAF Catterick was on the main road.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And then did you come home on a regular basis?
As soon as I could, whenever I could. I mean, I'd come home and have a ride at a race meeting at Alton Towers on a borrowed bike, and then go back to camp, you see.
I didn't know they raced at Alton Towers. I thought that was just full of big dippers and...
They had race meetings at Alton Towers and Osmaston Manor.
Yes.
Some good stuff there, because that's all there was.
Okay. Well, you better tell me how you became involved in racing motorcycles.
Yes, well, I suppose really we just we joined a local club for a start, the Derby Phoenix, which is, there we are. That's the thing, I've got it. This is the one that came from the Derby Technical College, you see, Derby Technical College Club.
So you were at Derby Technical College?
No, I went there for lunch and we joined
You went there for lunch?
And I met up with Charlie Salt and various other people I got to know. And it tells you there, that was set up to encourage people to take on a job for training at the college, you see.
So just like the government's trying to do today, they were encouraged.
That's what it was set up for. So
okay.
I joined that club. In fact, I think I'm a founder member of the club.
Right.
And one of my pals at the art school actually designed that. And of course we would join the club, and there's quite a lot of people in there. I've got an album there with photographs of annual dinners, and there's always a big display of people.
Yes.
Of the annual dinners that took place. So they'd run trials, they'd run social evenings. You'd go to dances. I do remember we went to a dance at one of the villages out there. It had a tin roof. And we had to knock the nails down on the floor because it was a problem. But we covered a bit of ground one way and another.
So you mentioned trials. The Derby Motorcycle Club ran trials.
Yes.
Now I've seen a photograph of you, not on a Velocette or an AJS, but I think it was a Sun.
Oh, well, that came later. That was Wildman's Sun. They were selling Sun motorcycles, and I was given the job of riding their prototype Sun. But that's because I'd already done trials with what I got. You see, I got this old AJ, which all I could afford was to build an AJ. I registered a 1948 350 AJ, MRB 160, got it taxed for when I was 16. Yeah. And I'd use that for transport when I was couldn't afford to run it for the week to go to and from work. It was a bicycle every day. Yeah. But on a Saturday we'd go on the motorbike. On the motorbike. Wonderful. And then if we got the chance, we'd go riding in trials and scrambles. We had scrambles at Muggington. Yeah. Some good do's. I remember 1951. We had a special event on at Muggington in the mud, very muddy, and the president of the Derby Phoenix at that time was Evenden, who was Royce's, one of his Royce's, your Rolls-Royce, Royce's men. Okay. You see. Right. And whilst he was there, he rolled up in an open Rolls-Royce 20, which Royce had given him for his wedding in 1926, I think. He rolled up in this with his daughter in fur coats. But of course, when you think about it, they haven't got heaters, and that was the way they traveled. They had fur coats, you see. And there was, my AJ, I modified, I'd actually fitted tellies at that time, and I'd used
But that means telescopic forks. Yes.
Yeah, but of course you could buy some matchless telescopic forks from fairly local.
Yeah.
From the MU, the Army MU.
Yeah.
And there was always a pair of tellies for £10 if you were lucky. And we also had to get magnetos because magnetos never worked much in those days. Yeah. We'd get an old mag up from a matchless and modify it and fit.
So in those early days, all of these motorcycles were very much make do and mend, cobbled together. You had to be...
We had to do what we can.
Yes.
I used to chase around getting bits and pieces for a few shillings.
Okay. I'm sure all of those Velocette enthusiasts out there are eager to know about the first Velocette and how, because you did earn the title Mr. Velocette, didn't you?
I'm not so sure I would agree with that, because I always think that to appreciate the best, you've got to see the rest.
Ivan, the first Velocette.
This was the Velocette I first rode down the road in 1946. It was a scruffy heat. My pal had got it, but he eventually went in the Navy, and he used this bike to travel backwards and forwards to Cornwall, you see. And I remember on one occasion, he'd come all the way back, and he fell asleep and went in a gully and bent the thing with the car. I had the job of building a wheel for a start. I think, not quite sure when that was, but it's sometime around that period.
Yeah.
And it was quite a scruffy old thing, but it was a really sweet as motor.
It must have been reliable to run from here to Cornwall. It's How many hours would he have been on?
I don't know, but he'd keep working. That's what I say. He fell asleep.
Yeah.
And that was it. But and of course, eventually, he'd be boasting about this old Velocette, which belonged to the Cann family, Maurice Cann's brother Tom. This was Tom's bike, and he'd get the locals who'd been riding the old AJs up and down the fields that we mentioned earlier, and one of them, he'd let him have a ride. He said, "Go and have a ride on that." So he went up. They're quite a while coming back. They came coasting down the road, and as he stopped, he said, "Does the conrod usually break?" And apparently that's what had broke, you see. So his father worked at British Salonese, and in fact it's his father who actually owned the bike.
Right.
Bob used it, but he was a stepson. But that was his father who owned the bike.
Okay.
So his father, they took it apart, they welded the conrod and put it back.
Welded it?
Yeah. I mean, I could show you a conrod. They're a bit slim, those early ones.
Yeah.
Got one next door. But that's what it was. But the next time it went, of course, they had another bottom end fitter, which was done by the Premier Motor Company in Birmingham, apparently. And having done that, they then got a KSS Mark II piston, which was a bit close to the head and wanted machining.
So the piston was too close to the head.
You'd normally skim it off.
Yeah, you'd machine it. Yeah.
Didn't, for some reason. And it was just a bit of a heat. But it'd been stood there since 1952, it was last used. And it was in 1960 when I decided to go and see this show. His stepson had moved on or something.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, I wouldn't mind having a go at that, you see, because I mean, I was riding what I could.
Yeah.
Usually the old AJ, which all I got, you see. I was in the motorcycle trade. I was working in Nottingham, and I thought, well, I'll go and see whether it'd be fair to sell it. And I didn't want to persuade you to part with something that he treasured. I mean, it was all covered in. If it wasn't covered in oil, it was rusted and cobwebs. So I went to see him, and he said, "Well, I don't mind." He said, "If as long as I've got a motorcycle in there that's ready to use, I don't mind what it is." So the next thing is, I came across a C11G BSA, which cost me £5. I think I had to fit a new battery to it. I brought it up. They went up and down. That's fine, he said, and we did the swap.
So you must have thought it was special.
Well,
if you knew it was rusty and caked in oil and it had some dubious repairs to the engine, but this was the machine that you...
This was a KTT.
This was a KTT. KTT.
Special.
Yeah.
In no time at all, I got it home and I got it running. And in fact, I took it to Cadwell fairly soon on, because that's all occasionally I'd ride at Cadwell, just have the odd ride, and I took it to Cadwell. And unfortunately, it was going very well, but it broke one of its valve springs.
Yeah.
Simply because it was an old one. I mean,
so you'd already started racing then at the main tracks, the major.
Racing old AJs, you see.
Just for fun.
I just enjoyed it for fun. I just enjoyed it. In fact, it was when I was riding an old AJ on one occasion. Don Whalen, I mentioned his name. He was a local. He was they called him the workhouse master because he was a very able Captain Whalen in the Territorial Army, an awfully nice chap, and his wife was a doctor, Dr. Robertson, and he came to me with Jack Walton. Jack Walton was we're going back or moving on, but Jack Walton was the manager of Mallory Park eventually, and helped to set up that part of the vintage racing for the Vintage Club, you see. But Jack and Don were old friends connected with the Derby Pathfinder Motor Club. Of course, I joined them at the Pathfinders to ride in trials. I'd done the Derby Phoenix. We did all these events. We got to know all these people. And Don must have seen me riding this old AJ, and I thought, well, I could let him ride on my 7R. So I rode his 7R in the Manx. So, it's something to use. But I'd never go and say, other than that, I thought, look.
Did you have to have a race license in those days? Did you still have to go and qualify?
Well, I suppose we did eventually. Certainly, you had to ride at the TT.
Yeah. So you've kept this machine all that time?
I've kept all that. I always kept it, yes.
And when was the last time this was ridden?
So I think Sam rode it latterly.
Sam's your grandson. Yeah.
And he won on it. He went to Cadwell and he beat the lot of them.
On this?
Yeah, on this.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Now, this thing, through the years, I've used it in competition. I mean, I'm not the best rider, but I managed to keep going. And the bike was quick enough to say, head the pack.
Yeah.
And I think it used to demoralise some of them because apart from one or two who were pretty better riders than me, have a go, the rest of them would stay by and I'd win quite a lot of races with it, you see. But so eventually, I won 3 championships, 3 different years of Vintage Club Championship.
Right.
Graham took it over and he won champion.
All on this bike?
All on this bike. Yeah. And Chris Williams, an old late friend of ours, a very good rider, he won championships. So he's won 9 championships in the Vintage Club through the years. I mean, it's not the same engine, but it's the same frame.
But it does pose a question: what makes a Velocette KTT so special then?
Well, of course, I refer to these AJs. I mean, people all used to race those AJs.
Yeah.
People who we know, Eric Oliver, Arthur Wheeler, a lot of people, they all went on riding those AJs. They go forever.
Yeah.
But of course, if you wanted something better, you had to ride a Velo. You moved from an AJ to a Velo. And that did the job.
So how did you meet up with Titch Allen? How did that relationship...
With Titch, I think it was... Well, he would come visiting. When I was working for Peter McManus, I was working in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And he'd come and call in and see us. And we'd have a cup of tea down the road. So I'd leave the lads there and I'd just go and have a cup of tea of that. Titch did a lot of chatting and so forth. I said, there's a race meeting at Mallory, you ought to come. And I wasn't even in the club. I thought, well, I better go join the club. And that's when
Titch Allen had founded the Vintage Motorcycle Club at that point.
Yeah, that's right. So I got this old AJ. Sorry, I got the KTT on that occasion, and I actually rebuilt it, got it looking quite respectable, and I suppose that gave me the means of progress a little bit further.
And was it competitive racing?
Yes, I think I finished second in that event, but of course there was some pretty hot stuff. I mean, they were all on methanol, I was on petrol. But my bike didn't handle very well, for some reason. I had difficulty, and I'd rebuilt it like that, even with the subframe on it. But in due course, I couldn't quite understand why it didn't handle too well. But when I acquired a Mark IV and put them alongside, there's a slight difference in the angle of the fork. And before that, I'd actually swapped the frame. I'd swapped the forks, and I've still got the bad handling. So what it turned out to be, I'd fitted a new pair of fork links, bottom fork links, from somewhere, which were about 25 thou shorter than the original.
25 thou, that's all?
Yeah, well, not much, but enough to cause a problem. As soon as I fitted a pair of standard units, it handled 3, and that was it. And we all rode the bikes. I mean, we had number 41 on, I think that was for me, no, that's for Graham. Number 41 was for Graham, and number 11 was Chris Williams. So we were able to change 41 to 11 by merely, you don't change the number over, just cover it up, you see. And that's how it all came about.
Okay. So I read in Passion of a Lifetime that both you and Titch, as part of your job driving to visit customers,
that's right,
would do little diversions and visit motorcycle friends and dealers.
That's how we met up with Freddie Frith, you see.
Yes.
And eventually Harry Balderston, and of course John Griffith, and of course they got involved with Stamford Hall, Lord Bray, and got Lord Bray to give us an opportunity to have our raffle. So of course Founders Day started there, you see, like that.
And people offered you parts of Velocettes and AJSs?
Oh, they did, yes. I mean, there was a time before the post-vintage stuff came in for racing, which was 1966, I think.
Right.
Before that, if you got anything that wasn't vintage, nobody was interested. And of course the later stuff wasn't competitive, so I'd get offered all sorts of frames and various also. One chap offered me a frame for a Velo, a chap named Lawrenson from down the south. He got this swinging arm frame. It had a swinging arm fitted on. It was a bodge, he thought. But it turned out to be one of the 3 experimental frames of 1936. It was Stanley's 350 twin cam frame of 36, which had a swinging arm with a fixed legs on steering head bearings, which is what they did on the experimental ones. And of course when I got the factory records here, you see, and when I asked the number, the frame was SF number 2. Well, I knew straight away what that was, because SF number 1 was Ernie Thomas's 350, SF number 2 was Stanley's 350, and SF number 3 was Stanley's 500. So all experimental. So we started, and that's really how we managed to build Stanley's 500, because I'd already acquired an engine from Dearden up in Manchester. If you got the story about, we went to see Ted Reds Dearden. We'd heard about this engine there, lying on the floor, this massive engine. This particular one, Titch said, well, it's not going to be in a museum, it's going to be used. So we eventually did a deal, and I think I bought the engine for 125 quid, which was the price of 2 KTTs. And one KTT was £75 in those days, so it was 125. So I put a fiver on it, and I said, I'll pay you when I can. Of course, eventually, I've got a letter still somewhere, when you're going to pay me the rest and come and fetch it, so we did that. And of course, then when I went for that, well, are there any more spares? And they said, well, I've got another cylinder head, but somebody in Australia would like that. So I said, well, perhaps I must have one for that. So we had to buy that as well. But that was a case of a fiver, and the rest when it came.
Okay.
But we came back with this engine in the back of a Morris Minor Traveller. We stopped for fish and chips at Waterhouses and had to look in the back to see this big rubber band. And eventually, well, I put it together, and in my workshop there, you'll see a picture of it on the wall.
Right.
When it was used first used at Marray Park on the 4th of April 1970.
Right.
And that's when I entered it as a 495 Velo, they'd think it was an MSS. But when it turned up, there's John Griffiths with a 500 Rudge, and I got that there. It didn't handle too well, and I thought it was top end. It was mainly, I'd had to let somebody else build the wheels, which I normally do, and I think he got them slightly out of dish. So that would put it right. There's a photograph of Freddie Frith riding it, fighting it in my book.
Yeah.
You'll see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that I believe you created when you were at the Vintage Motorcycle Club,
Yeah.
the insurance
Yes.
scheme. Now that went on to be quite something else.
Yes.
So it wasn't just about creating or recreating motorbikes. You helped start a whole new business, didn't you?
The club, at that particular time, the club was it had grown so much, we had to start paying someone, and Ken Horworth was the new secretary. It was just a part payment, and certain honorariums were involved.
Yeah.
And it was soon realised that the club couldn't afford to keep going as it was.
Right.
So we had what was called the President's Appeal, and I had to write it all out, an appeal for anybody to put. People donated all sorts of things, and we doubled the fee, which lost a few members.
Yeah.
And I'd also learned, we'd been to Holland for some reason, I think it's some international rally, and I'd learned that the people in Holland were dependent on an insurance scheme to help them, and I decided to raise the question about insurance. Now Ken Horworth, being Ken as he was, he'd already done some investigation with somebody named Chawners at wherever he lived at that part of the world.
Okay.
And he'd come up with all the information that was needed. So eventually we did in fact set up a scheme which gave the club a commission. And all the rates were very competitive. In fact, Titch says, I can't see it working. Nobody would take it on. But we did, we got it working. And it's due to Ken's efforts that we got
And
it
am
going.
I right in thinking there was a young lady who was the administrator?
The office girl, yes. I mean, I've got it all written down. That Peter Lee was the chap who was in, and it was part of a company, and we decided to give the girl the job, give her the job to run it. So of course that was Carol Nash, you see, and of course she made a fortune after that. and I became.
I've got to ask. Did you get some money out of this?
No, well, I got policy number 1. The point was, I used to have a trade policy when I was working in the trade, but I'd left the trade in those days, and I remember the chap who ran the Phoenix, I think it's Phoenix Insurance, he said you really ought to have a separate one. Phil Heath's wife did a certain amount of insurance special. There was somebody else doing a little bit of special stuff, but eventually they did get it going. And of course all I got was that big Portaggio I wanted on the road. Otherwise I was paying the same premium for that as someone's Z1000 Kawasaki, you see, which I thought that's a bit unfair. And that's how we got it done. You see, got the job underway. And of course we also then decided we'd have a raffle bike. So I gave them an AJ like that. It was a barn find, but it was a complete bike, which I'll let the club have for a nominal whatever. Well, I think it was because we'd managed to make some progress, and they got the first lap of honour in the Isle of Man going, where we had to take bikes over 79 was the first one.
Yeah.
And this is where we found that Bill Smith was organising and the entry, and of course I knew that Bill Lomas had ridden that 500.
Yeah.
And so had Stanley Woods.
Yes.
So I decided to check whether Stanley can I ride the 500? I said yes. So I checked with Bill, or I checked with Bill Smith, and I said, has Bill Lomas put an entry? And he said yes. What's he on, a 500? Well, I'd only got one bike, you see, but I'd just acquired a lot of...
So that's two world champions,
yeah,
both promised the same bike
both
to ride a lap of Ona.
That's right, and I got 3 weeks to build another kite. So I dug out all the bits, and we managed to get it done. We got it up and running, the second one, up and running on the Saturday night. And then I got to check Stanley's bike to make sure that...
I bet you gave Stanley the original.
Well, he had the original, and Bill had the other one.
Did Bill know?
Well, he did. He had. Well, I left a message. I said, "Can you meet me on Derby on Wednesday?"
Yeah.
Now I hadn't even booked the boat. You wouldn't do that today, would you?
No.
I thought I'd better ring the steam packet. I rang the steam packet and I said, because they knew me from the previous, you see. So they said, "Oh, we'll fit you in." So we managed to get fitted in on the Monday.
Yeah.
Went over there and we went to test the bikes on the
Derby Airfield.
Derby on the
Yeah.
Wednesday, make sure the carburation and that was okay. And of course I'd got on my Mark 8, because after all I'd qualified as well.
Yeah.
I'd ridden in the TT, you see,
Yeah.
so I was all right. So we had 3 Velocettes in that first lap of honour in '79.
Wonderful.
And the following year it was done by the Vintage Club.
Yeah.
It was called Classic. I think I've got a label here with it somewhere.
Classic Parade. Was it?
Cavalcade of History, they called it.
Cavalcade of History.
And Tony Wilmot had taken over the chairmanship of the racing section, because I'd been in charge of the racing section. Because I was president, Tony had taken over the chairmanship. So we got the bikes ready, and then we realised, and of course Jack Walton was also part of it at that time, we realised that we had to have a marshal to take us. We were agreed to have a marshal. I think that we were legally required to do it. So I said, well, why not make Mike Howard, because he got a ride. And he said, that's a good idea, so he just cleared off.
Fantastic. So you were a member of the Velocette Owners Club at this time?
I don't think I was.
No.
No, I don't think so. No, I did my 2-year stint with the vintage racing side.
Yeah.
And then I think it was I think some comment about the fact that I was racing velos at Cadwell, but I was not a member, so they didn't matter. So I thought, well, it is a
so they weren't taking
so.
you seriously.
Yeah. So I thought I'd better join the club.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when it was, but then they said, well, we've got an AGM coming up, and then somebody said they'd put my name forward, and I said, well, I don't mind.
Put your name forward to be president.
Something like that, because I'd already done the other one, you see.
Now, I know that you committed a bit of a faux pas, didn't you?
Well, I'll tell you what that was. First of all, I'd got the Cami AJ, which is this one I got with George Rowley in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, I got the Cami AJ. I went on the Cami AJ for a start. And of course, I didn't know there was an existing president. I didn't know who he was, you see. And it turned out that it was Peter Goodman.
Yeah.
And Peter got up and walked out in disgust, I think.
Had you been voted in as the new president?
I must have been, yeah. I think I must have been. And I was so embarrassed about it, and I thought, I wonder why. They said, well, he never did anything. I said, he doesn't have to do anything. He's a member of the family. But of course, I eventually put it right, and he said, thank you for those kind words, and we became very good friends.
So just before we leave Velocette Owners Club,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about links with New Zealand and
Yes.
Australia, which
Yes.
seems a long way away from
Yes.
Hall Green in Birmingham,
Yes.
but
Yes.
there are some enthusiasts over there, aren't there?
Well, well and truly, it all started by a chap named George Begg,
Right.
who rode in the Manx with me in 1955.
Okay.
He got a new 7R,
Yeah.
and I'd got Don Wayland's 7R, but he remembers the fact we were there together. And in fact, he married a lady from Ballath,
Okay.
Frida,
Yeah.
and of course they went back to New Zealand and got a family. But he always remembered that, and when he retired, he said, right, we're going to get him over. And they came over to see us. I think they'd already had, they'd had John Surtees up. No, they had Jeff Duke to start with,
Yeah.
and then they had John Surtees. And then they thought, well, we'd better get somebody who's, you know, one of us, if you like, the racing sort of
Yeah.
crew type. And they got Renee and myself over, you see.
Okay.
And they very well and truly looked after us, gave us a car and told us where to go and gave us accommodation. And this was all arranged, and it happened initially in 1984, I think, and we were taken all over the place. And of course Peter Butterworth was he's a vice president, I think, probably still is. He's my age. And we just had made some good friends. Hugh Anderson, of course, we knew. And of course, at that time I'd married Renee.
Yeah.
Renee was a widow, a racing widow. Her late husband was Robin Fitton. And in fact, that photograph of me on the wall, when we next have a look at that, that was on the 4th of April 1970. That was the day that Robin Fitton lost his life.
Yeah.
But 4 years later I met up with her, and that's when I got married, you see.
It just brings it home that this racing pastime, enjoyment,
Well, it's, we all had the
has
same
its
sort of
moments,
friends,
doesn't
you
it?
see.
Yeah. But there's a lot of racing machines, Velocette racing machines in New Zealand.
The big Velo was out there. I mean, I'd heard about this bike, and of course that was a dog kennel, one like that, you see, in rigid
Go on,
form.
tell me again what it's a dog kennel because
The cam box is like a dog kennel. Willis referred to it. They had rockers and pushers, enclosed valves and so forth. It was obviously experimental stuff. The #1 went to New Zealand, and was very successful. I've got a complete list. I think it's all in my book, actually.
I have read it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it as well as you do.
In fact, I finished up buying it. I must have sold something, built something for the museum, and I got the money I could buy it, and I bought it. And it wanted a lot doing to it, and Graham and I between us did it.
Yeah.
And then eventually it went back to New Zealand because they wanted it back.
So this is the 500cc.
This is the
version
500
of the
dog
KT,
kennel, number MT5001.
Right.
They had MT 5001, 5002, 5003, 3500.
But it was never as successful as the 350, was it?
Well, the 350 was more generally in use, and of course they made their bread and butter selling 350s. They made all these KTTs in '39.
Yeah.
Stanley said they're all identical. Well, they weren't identical. There was all those differences. Like, I could show you what they were. But of course, eventually the Aurora went out there, and Hugh Anderson rode the Aurora.
Yes.
And it was also taken to Australia.
This is after you'd
This is later on.
brought it back to life.
Later on, that's right.
We'll come back to the Aurora.
Yes, I suppose we can talk about that later.
Yes,
But
yes.
They were always very good. New Zealand and Australia were very good, and I think it's good to acknowledge the fact.
Yeah.
And of course there was a lot of enthusiasm there, a lot of knowledge, and as we know, if fellows wanted to get rid of something, they just got them out of the way as far as they could, and that's what they did.
So talking now, I've always said Velos, but you in your book you say it's Velos. I should pronounce
Velos. That's how they referred to it as Velos.
Okay.
Yes.
Run by the Goodman family.
That's right.
And you got to know them very well, didn't you?
Well, quite early on, I suppose it was when I rode in the TT.
Yeah.
I mean, there weren't many Velocettes in use at that time, but I rode Don's Beasley Velo, and it actually packed up with a broken bearing. But it had had a hard life, we didn't know. But, and I suppose at this time, this was what, 65, so of course we'd already got to know them because they were part of the scene of encouraging people to take the bikes out. Yeah. So I was able to go to the factory. Well, of course, Phil Irving came over, that's right, and he chose to come and stay with us at Fellside. I don't know why, but we got the roar of partly of him. He wanted to come and see how it was going, perhaps.
Okay.
But it was an honour to see. I was a bit in awe of Phil Irving, but you know, he was there. I'd met him over in Australia anyway, you see. And he also went to stay with John Kidson, because John Kidson was a Vincent man as well, and Titch Allen, of course.
Yes.
So, and I've got photographs of him when he was here with them on.
As you've mentioned Charles Oudle, and earlier on you said we should talk about the Velocette LE, which was a very different machine.
Oh, absolutely. To
the racers that you're familiar with, but you did co-write a book all about the small twins.
It was only because I'd already written something and they included it. It was really Brian's book.
Yeah.
But
this is Brian Agnew.
Brian Agnew, yes, yeah.
Did you have any affection for the little Ellie?
Well, no, I was wary of it. In fact, I inherited. I bought one. John Griffiths did a deal with Bertie Goodman when they were packing up.
Yeah.
And he got the roarer in its sort of paid complete. But it's got
there was nothing inside it.
It got chrome exhaust pipes. It got nothing inside it. So it got the roarer. It got the Model O.
Yeah.
And he got the 24-hour record breaker.
Yes.
And he got the TT winner, and I think he got something else. And he did a deal with Bertie.
Right.
To get them.
Yes.
With some antique furniture and that sort of stuff, I think.
Right.
And then he also did a deal with Titch with the Model O and such like, and
just so this was right at the end in 1971 when Velos ceased.
That's right.
Did you go to the final auction?
No, well, I got no money, so I couldn't go to the auction. but because of the KTT connection, I think we've always enthused about the KTT. Yeah. We got people saying, "You ought to come and collect this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
And I did go down with Graham with a car and a trailer. We've got whatever we could. I took £100 with me. Yeah. And I bought what I could with £100. Okay. I left stuff there because I didn't want to be greedy. I thought I'll leave some for somebody else. I could have taken the lot because I think it was all scrapped.
Yeah.
It was all scrapped. But we did get a lot of stuff. I don't know how it all came back.
So Model O, you mentioned the Model O briefly then, and that's in the book, The Three Twins.
Yes, that's right.
Did you ever ride it?
Oh yes, we've ridden it.
Yeah?
Yes.
And what were your impressions of it?
Well, super smooth. Bob's had a ride on it as well.
Yeah.
In fact, he broke the kickstart. It kicked back and of course the kickstart...
Poor Bob, his only involvement so far.
There's a story to that. He said we ought to send it back under guarantee. Because the kickstart is exactly the same as a Suzuki. Or some, well, the Japanese copied it, you see.
I like that, the Japanese copied it.
And you remember, it just broke, didn't it? And I thought, blimey, after all these years, it suddenly broke.
So, the Model O, just to recap, was a prototype that didn't make it to production, and am I right in saying it was based on the Aurora design?
No, it was. They had to be seen to be building the Aurora, which was a very special effort,
Yes.
and an expensive one to do.
Yeah.
They had to try and justify it by saying, well, we're making a road-going prototype
Okay.
on the same principle.
Right.
But the only thing you would interchange with the Aurora is the valve in the tyre, because everything else is different. Both got geared cranks
Yes.
and shaft drive, but that's all.
Okay.
And of course, Irving designed it,
Yeah.
and they designed it in such a way it could be made, you know, flame cut parts and
Yeah.
a lot of plain bearings and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. But again, clever stuff. Wasn't
Yeah.
it?
And you worked on
Absolutely.
it, Bob.
Only in a small way. Yeah, but I did have a few rides on it. And absolutely remarkable in that we are all used to our single cylinder Velocettes
Yeah.
where you feel the engine.
Yes.
But on that Model O, there's nothing there to feel.
Very
It's
smooth.
turbine.
Yeah. So why didn't it get on? I mean, if they've managed to make one prototype quite a successful engineered.
Well, the war came along and they tried to make the LE. That's really the way.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah. The war and the concept of every man's motorcycle.
Yeah.
The LE.
That's. I always
Yeah.
wanted the everyman
The,
motorbike.
the Model O was going to be expensive.
Yeah. So that was its demise. It's a shame. Yeah. So behind me is another very special Velocette.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
600. And you say that Phil Irving had some involvement
He
in
was
this
very
as well?
much responsible
Yeah.
for preparing it for the 6 days.
It certainly looks different.
Well, I think we must have had some idea. We always thought we ought to try and reproduce it.
Yeah.
And I think if I'd have done it, well, I'd have got a KSS frame. I might have been able to build an engine with what bits I've got. Graham would have helped, I'm sure, because he was a good engineer.
Yeah.
And I'd have put a sidecar chassis on, and that had been it. But when we decided to take the job on, well, Bob did it only one way he knew, and that's to do the job properly. Get it all on paper. The design had to be spot on in every detail. You know, everything is in accordance with Irving's design features, like the angle of the frame. He's made the crank to the right dimension. And everything else, like the swill pot on the carburetor. What else, Bob?
So when
And
Phil Irving visited, was this here? Did he see it?
No, this is, we hadn't got
This is-
on,
You hadn't got
on
it.
with it at that particular time. But of course, the other factor is we got a drawing of the sidecar, which is a Golding sidecar. Nobody had ever come across one of those.
Right.
But we got the drawing, and Bob has very carefully drawn it up, and we've had it exactly as it was. It's got a sprung wheel, a pivot, the sidecar wheel pivot. It's got brakes all the way around, interchangeable wheels, offset front brake, big black sprocket, of course, as you'd expect, and so on. Of course, we're still on with all the little details. You'll probably notice it's got an oil gauge on it. There's a speedo and a clock and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I noticed the clock, which is
Yeah.
an unusual feature on any motorbike of this period, and it's a very nice looking timepiece as well. And the oil pressure gauge, that is.
Well,
So that's the responsibility of the sidecar
keep an eye on
passenger.
that. Yeah.
Is there a method of communication?
Dig in the ribs,
Does
I
he just
think.
raise an arm?
But of course, it was used during the wartime. It was used a lot. But if anything wanted taking, they did a lot of work for the Vickers aircraft.
Yes.
You know, for Wellingtons
Yes.
and things. And they had to go to Chester regularly,
Yeah.
taking bomb hoist bits, various other roto stuff for, and you know,
Yeah.
aircraft engines. All that was stuff was made at bit whole green, and they wanted it pretty desperate. And invariably, Irving was given the job of taking it all in that.
And so it was like the company hack.
Right, it was.
And anybody probably was given the opportunity.
I mean,
right?
they used to have an MSS, or an MSS as a punt, they call it a punt. They had a KSS to start with, and an MSS, but eventually this became the best one there was, because it would really get on with it.
There's a picture of that outfit in it. Sorry, not the replica, the original.
Yeah.
Taken in Wales during an LE test run.
Yes.
Where Bertie Goodman is on the sidecar.
Yes.
And
Maureen is
right in the.
So that would have been
first LE,
pre 49.
That's right.
Yeah, a development LE.
Yeah.
So a test run out in Wales.
We could never understand why it is that the bike got away from the factory, because they tried to buy it back from Lewis. Was it Lewis?
Yeah.
Lewis had got the outfit.
Lewis, sorry, you left
Lewis.
He was a Bristol dealer who also did grass track.
Okay.
And he used the bike, including the engine, the original one, for grass track racing.
Was that L&D Motors?
Yeah.
Was it L&D? It probably was.
So, yeah. I think
because they had this engine in the window of their shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I was a 16-year-old with my 250cc Royal Enfield, and I lived in Bridgewater, it was a case of riding to L&D Motors in Bath Road, Bristol, to get spare parts.
Yeah.
And I used to look at this Velocette engine, and that's
So that's the original
there we go.
engine.
But we don't know what happened to the rest of it, you see.
I never got it, I know that. So I'd like to ask you about the Rora project, the Rora motorcycle, around 1980?
That's when Stanley Woods was a guest of honour at the first of the, what they call Stafford shows.
Stafford Motorcycle Show.
Bellevue.
Yeah.
Alan White had organised that.
Yes.
And we're always invited as a guest, always have been. We must have been there to deal with it.
Yeah.
And we'd already resurrected the two 500s for the lap of honour of 79. I don't know why it was, but somebody must have mentioned what's happening to the Rora. And I think maybe Graham and I had discussed it, I don't know. But we got to the show, and Stephen was just unloading his van.
Yes.
He'd got the Rora that had been laid out. Then he got the Bruff Superior, the Barragonath Bruff sidecar, which was also what John Griffith had got at the time. Yeah. And I said, hang on, Steve, I'll give you a lift. So I went up there and I pulled the bike out. The plank fell on my foot. And so, of course, it was a bit painful, that was. Anyway, we got that job done. But the next day I went back with Renee, my wife. So I was hobbling about a bit at the time. And I saw him there, and he was a bit sheepish about it all. I said, you'll have to sell us the Rora for that. That may have sowed the seed, I don't know.
So that flippant remark
started the ball going, you see. And we looked at the possibility, and I think I had to agree to whatever we paid for it. It had to be 12 months to raise it. I had to sell stuff off, all sorts of things, really, in order to do it.
So can we recap? The Rora was a one-off, and it never got raced in anger by Villos, did it? Stanley Woods rode it in practice at the TT.
39.
Yeah. And it was designed to be one of those machines that was going to be supercharged before the regulations.
Yeah, I mean, the AJs had got their supercharged twin.
And the BMW.
BMW. Yeah. And of course it was relatively heavy compared. The petrol tank was like a full tank when we took it off. But nevertheless, they were having a go, as they would.
So it didn't get raced, but then in the 60s, it was used as a demonstrator, wasn't it? Not running, but
dealers had it.
All the dealers had it.
People send photographs. We had it here and we had it there. Photographs of this bike all over the place.
Yeah.
And it always had the chrome pipes on, which told it had been rebuilt. They'd rebuilt it and left the internals. They'd lost the internals. I think they could have found them, but nevertheless.
So there was nothing inside the engine?
Well, there was a pair of pistons.
Yeah.
And there was a vertical, top vertical shaft. I think there were valves in one half, because there's an exploded drawing somewhere.
Yeah.
And you'll see the valves are all separate. So there was one head with valves in, and the other one with nothing. There were no cams.
No.
Nothing else.
The crankshafts and all the gearing?
No, there were gears in the gearbox.
Okay.
There was no drive side at the back, drive shaft. That had to be made.
And is this the condition in which it came to you then?
That's how it was, really.
Yeah.
But we learned later that they'd never got sufficient oil pressure. It was down on oil pressure.
Even when it was first run and ridden by Stanley?
Yeah. Jack Passant told us that. He said there were always... In fact, there's a pressure relief valve in it, a typical Velocette one with the spring.
The spring and the ball.
10 little washers behind it, trying to make sure it doesn't pass oil.
Yeah.
Because this is what happened. We found when we got it going, there was still not pressure.
So if all the internal parts were missing, did you have the drawings, or
no?
Somebody gave you the spares in a box?
Graham had to sit down and do all the drawings. We did manage to get hold of Charles Udall.
Yes.
Who came up with a book with some information in, which we desperately needed.
Yeah.
The tooth form and angle of the gear drive. There's a drive from the right-hand crank, driving a muff coupling and a shock absorber.
Yeah.
Driving and also a skew gear to drive the magneto. All that was missing. Well, he got all that information.
So not a simple design, and not following any form of standard approach to overcoming these
In fact, we had to rearrange the drive to the oil pump. Once we'd got it running, we had to rearrange the drive to the oil pump, a ratio of it.
Yeah.
And we had to change the cam shape. We had like a Mark IV cam, which immediately gave us a far better. It sounded like a Triumph Twin when we first started it, and it was hunting.
Yes.
But once we got it sorted, it was very good. It got a lovely rash to it.
Well, as I think you know, what prompted me to come and have this conversation with you today was that someone, and we're not quite sure who, but someone sent me a video memory stick, and on it was the video of the Aurora Awakes of you and Graham and a group of enthusiasts here at Fellside. So tell me about that day. Was that the real first time it had run?
No, that was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And when Peter was coming, and we
Peter Goodman.
Peter Goodman.
Yeah.
They were coming from about 100 people came from all over the place, including off Stanley Woods and Mr. Wheeler, and they're all coming because they're all done a little bit towards it. You see.
So I can recall there's pictures of Graham, first of all. You're starting it, I think you're bump starting it, or you're starting it on rollers?
No, we haven't got rollers in those days.
Okay.
No, what it was, when I spoke to Peter before, because we decided to have, we didn't know there was a flame trap in there.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. Thought it might have gone wrong. So we got fire extinguisher ready.
You're walking around carrying fire extinguishers, I remember now from the video, yes. Yeah.
But Peter, Peter said, he said, are you going to run it before Sunday? I said, we weren't. He said, I would if I were you.
I realise we've gone full circle. This association with Velocette started with you riding illegally up and down the road.
That old KT2 as a 14.
And here we are with the Roarer.
That's right.
What? And this was in 1980s now? 1989.
79.
Yeah.
79 was it? 79, no, 79 was the lap upon 79, 80, it must have been 89.
Okay.
50 years since 39.
Okay.
That's right.
So someone with a borrowed trade plate.
Yeah.
Graham has it on his back, I seem to
That's
remember.
right.
Yeah.
And then we warned all the neighbours that they could, there's a lot of vehicles about.
Yeah.
And he blasted it down the road. It was all right.
Yeah.
It's high geared.
Yeah.
It's high geared. I mean, Graham, in the meantime, he's taken it up. He's taken it on the continent.
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, apart from the fact we went to Salzburg with it,
Right.
and John Kitson rode it there. But other than that, it was Graham took it.
Yeah. And it performs well. Yes. Yeah. And you, of course, reunited it with Stanley Woods on that day when you got it.
That's right.
On the official day of it being restarted. Did Stanley have kind words to say about it?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, he was. I mean, he'd not ridden it obviously, but
No.
he found it steered very well, but it handled very well. But of course, it hadn't got the performance.
Hadn't got the power.
He was cooking plugs or oiling plugs.
Ah, okay.
And in fact, we learned later about the oil pressure and eventually we'd had it at the museum, and I think
What, the National Motorcycle Museum?
National, at a TT Riders lunch, and there were a group of them there, including Jimmy Simpson Jr.
Yeah. Right.
And Jimmy made the point. He said, "I think it's probably caused by cavitation in the oiling system."
Mm-hmm.
In other words, because we haven't got a head of oil, it's all down at the bottom. You're drawing oil through the pump, from the tank,
Yeah.
through the pump, and there's not enough room to pull it through. So we took it all off, and we streamlined the hole. We increased the cavity about 50% to streamline it, and put it all back. And we put an oil gauge. The oil gauge was right down in front. Took it to Mallory and tested it. Graham was over the top looking to see the gauge. And we got plenty of oil pressure. We backed it off, and it'll stayed that way ever since, you see.
Very good.
So we did put it right.
Okay. Wonderful.
But eventually it did go to New Zealand. Hugh Anderson rode it there. I've got it on film. The trouble is they made a mistake of putting all three bikes together. There was John Surtees with the BMW,
Yeah.
Sammy Miller with the AJ V4, and all together. I thought, well, you want to keep them separate because they're all different.
Yeah.
Eventually they did realise that, and they went round separately. All got their own note, and they were good. And then it had to be flown over to Australia, and I remember we were at Melbourne to start with.
Yeah.
And then we had to take it to Sydney. It was about a all-day drive to get there. And a chap named Hackett, I think, came with me. We took it on his car and trailer in a box. And every now and again we had to stop it until somebody wanted to hear it running. We had to stop it and run it.
And that's not an easy thing, because I did have the pleasure of seeing it at the Velocette Owners Club rally a few years ago with Graham there.
That's right.
And you started it.
Yeah.
But you've got to run it for quite some time to get the oil up to temperature and make it run sweetly. Haven't you? Several minutes. Yeah. So that can't have been easy, stopping it and starting it for these people.
To Sydney, it was fairly late on, and we had to go to a hotel. And once it's in the hotel, it had to go up in the lift. Well, he had to put it up, front wheel in like that to shut the lift door, took it up the top, and this place was full of people all over. I was quite amazed how many people, including some of the Goodmans. Some of the Goodman family were there. Yeah. Some of Bertie's relatives. And some of the Stevens from AJS.
Right.
Because they'd moved over there. Because I knew some of the Stevens family. You see. So it was quite an occasion.
Quite an occasion.
And then, of course, once we'd done that, we then had to fire it up in the dark to get it going.
Not inside the hotel.
Oh, yeah, outside the hotel.
Oh, outside the hotel. Yeah. I have one last question for me. You've mentioned John Surtees several times today, and I know you've got a little story about a certain John Surtees coming for breakfast.
Well, I don't know. It's a long time ago. I think he wanted to get mixed up with the vintage scene because he realised there was something of interest. Yeah. I mean, he'd had a 7R which he broke up and put it in as a filler in his rockery.
No.
And then realised he perhaps shouldn't have. You dug it all out and put it back together again. But at that time, and I remember we had to meet. I think Ken Horwath and myself had to go down.
Okay.
And we met up with him, and he took us for King Prawn Mill, a super.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd see him occasionally. And when we did that first lap of honour, I was telling Bob about it earlier. We did that first lap of honour over there, and of course we got loaded up with the car, the van, with bikes. We had out 3 bikes. Yeah. No, 4 bikes. One was Graham's standby, which is that frame there with a KTT and my Mark 8 and 2 500s. Then the Cami AJ sidecar outfit was there for the vintage rally. You see.
Okay. Yeah.
Tried to do it all. And when we got there, John threw the keys for his car, said, "Take Rinny for a run round." He said, "I'll deal with it." And of course, so he was able to help the lads out. Graham and Adrian would be there helping.
And I can't imagine it was an ordinary car, was it? If it was John Surtees' car?
I think it was a car.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, it gave us a chance to go off and lead them to it. And of course, once they had the event, both he brought an MV Augusta. Yes. And Phil Reed was on an MV Augusta. Yeah. And after it was done, he went off like a scolded cat, you see. And when he come back, he says, "I had to beat that bugger Reed," he says.
And how many years would there have been between Surtees being champion and Phil Reed? I mean,
I'm not sure about that, because we used to go to the island at one time, quite early on, always on a big portage out. That's all we got. That was transport. And that's that palletised. We'd have to ride on whatever we got. When the early days when Vincent's were clubmans and things like that.
Anyway, you still haven't told me about how he came to be wanting breakfast early one morning.
How we had to want me?
How John Surtees wanted breakfast from you early one morning.
Oh, that's right. He wanted some Velocette bits, KTT bits.
Okay.
And I think he got some. I'd acquired quite a lot of stuff from the West Country. Yeah. Which was work stuff. Amongst it was some Norton stuff, and he was trying to build a 600 Norton like his dad used to have.
Yeah.
There's a pair of forks and various things there.
Yeah.
So he came up really to deal with that and a few Velocette bits. And so he rolled up.
In a Ferrari, wasn't he? You told me he was driving a Ferrari. Or...
Something like that.
Yeah.
One of these hot motor cars. He must have set out about 5 in the morning. We were still in bed when he rolled up. So we had to, we thought, Christ, we gave him boiled eggs. We all had boiled eggs.
Yeah.
He was on his way to Alton Park, actually.
Yeah.
The next thing is we're going to off to Alton Park and such like.
There's another good anecdote about you and providing people with food. Was it baked beans? Which nationality was it you converted to baked beans?
There's a few stories like that. Yeah, like we all had to go to Alton Park.
Yeah.
Alton Park, that's right. And I got, it must have been a vintage meeting, and Chris Williams was there. Helmut Krakowitzer from Austria.
Yeah.
Klaus Kretschmar from Germany. And they were friends, you see. We'd met up with them. Chris Williams, did I say?
Yeah.
Anyway, we were all there, Graham and Adrian and the lot, and Renee. We all went to do whatever we got to do. And I think it was Alton Park on the Saturday, and it was Murray Park on the Sunday. So we thought, where are we going to put them? And we'd moved, we'd lived in Cremay Close at that time. So I never did find out where she put them all, but they all went there. and David Ward was there. David Ward was our friend from Rugby, was the curator of the museum.
Yeah.
And I know that we got a cat named Inky, a lovely cat named Inky. She was.
You're not going to tell us some horrible story about...
No, she was a black Siamese.
Okay.
So, and she'd had kittens. So she got 7 kittens. She could only feed 6. So there was a little one had to be fed separately. But apparently, when they were in bed, Dave Ward was woken up because there was all this noise. The cats were going upside down onto the bed, clinging to the hat. I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
So that was that.
Baked beans.
And then of course, we said, where are we going to feed them?
Yeah.
And I don't know, our father said, we'd better go and get some baked beans, or we'd got some. Anyway, we all had baked beans. They were so pleased with them, they went out and bought some more before they went home.
Wonderful. Ivan.
There are, I'm sure there's other stories I've still got to write.
I'm sure. But for now, Ivan, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful day.
I'm not a great talker, but it's nice to have the opportunity.
I've managed to wheedle a few words out of you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bob.
And thank you, Bob. Yes.
I always have to thank Bob because he does help us out a lot. I can't do much these days, I'm afraid, so I'm most grateful.